Tired of dealing with annoying flies, fruit flies, and gnats in your home? The Zevo Flying Insect Trap is your ultimate solution. Don't wait. Check out the link in the video description now to get your Zevo Flying Insect Trap on Amazon and enjoy a bug-free home today.
ITV has defended allowing Ed Balls to interview his wife Yvette Cooper on Good Morning Britain. The broadcaster has come under fire after the former Labour cabinet minister, who is now a regular presenter on the ITV breakfast show, grilled his own wife during Monday's episode in her role as the Home Secretary. A spokesperson for GMB has now said, following a weekend of rioting and national unrest, GMB featured a range of interviews and discussion around this national emergency on today's program, which included James Cleverly, Shadow Home Secretary, and Yvette Cooper, Home Secretary. We are satisfied that these interviews were balanced, fair and duly impartial. GMB was branded embarrassing to the extreme by viewers after Ed interviewed his wife Yvette Cooper in a huge conflict of interests. Ed, 57, interviewed Home Secretary Yvette, 55, alongside Kate Garraway, 57, about the riots across the UK and asked what the police, government and social media sites should be doing. Ed and Kate questioned Yvette on the government's refusal to label the riots Islamophobic, as posed earlier in the program by Zara Sultana. Yvette began, "What we've seen on the streets of some cities and towns over the weekend frankly is criminal violence and thuggery. That is what it is first and foremost, and that's why it needs the full force of the law behind it." She added, "We have certainly seen some target attacks on mosques, and that clearly reflects Islamophobia." Ed said, "Can I ask, because we've talked about this a few times in the last few days, like many of our viewers will have done at home since those terrible killings in Southport. There have been identifiable individuals on social media who have been inciting not just riots, but violence. They've been using racist language and falsehoods. This is happening on the social media platforms. What should be done by the social media companies and the police and the government to stop this happening? It's been happening for a week." She replied, "Well, you're right, Ed. We have seen things appearing online that are clearly criminal. Social media has put rocket boosters under far-right extremist organizations, and also some of the violence we have seen. Things that are criminal offline are also criminal online." Ofcom has recently examined the issue of politicians hosting current affair program after a debate over Nigel Farage's appearances on GB News during the general election campaign. The regulator has ruled that while the British public is instinctively uncomfortable with the practice, there wasn't a clear consensus for an outright ban. Largely ignoring the content of the interview, GMB viewers took exception to the decision to put Ed in such a compromising position on X, formerly Twitter. They wrote, "Does GMB realize just how utterly ridiculous it looks by continuing to invite Ed Balls on as a presenter whilst he defends the actions of the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, his wife?" Home Secretary Yvette Cooper is asked why the government hasn't used the term Islamophobic. In her answer, Cooper, finally, uses the word. As for husband interviewing wife, how does #GMB think this is tenable? Ed, who's just treated at Zara Sultana with contempt for suggesting MSM plays its part in whipping up hate, is about to interview his wife in an obvious conflict of interests even for a 5-year-old viewer. Stick to Kerry Katona and strictly #GMB. Interesting that Ed Balls doesn't interrupt his wife when interviewing, but with other guests he does every 5 minutes #GMB #Good Morning Britain. Ed Balls is going to interview his wife? How is this at GMB being impartial and not a huge conflict of interest? Embarrassing in the extreme, and he hasn't talked to the Home Secretary about her job and the situation, really. Sick. Is it really appropriate that Ed Balls is hosting news coverage directly concerning the response to the protests of his wife and the government she is a part of? Sorry, this is insane. You can't have Ed Balls on a program interviewing his own wife. What a stupid editorial decision. I can't believe Yvette Cooper went along with this. Why is Yvette Cooper's husband, Ed Balls, allowed to defend her abysmal handling of the race riots? I'm not sure this is allowed. I don't think Ed Balls should be interviewing Yvette Cooper on GMB. They're a married couple. It's ridiculous.